What is up, everybody? Welcome to Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you're all doing well. I have a little bit of music news before we get into the playlist this week.
Let's talk about it.
First of all, Tyler, the Creator, came out for a song during a recent Earl Sweatshirt show in Los
Oh,
Angeles. And some pics came out, and it looks like all of them, plus like Vince and all of Odd Future reunited backstage, which is really cool to see. Did you get
that
to see any of this online?
I didn't see any of it online. I actually have not been as online as I normally am this week. So that's really fucking cool, man.
Yeah, very cool. Were you an Odd Future fan?
Um, I was told about Tyler the Creator back when he had released Goblin. And so I've looked into obviously like historic stuff, but I think Goblin came out after Odd Future had already disbanded, right?
Yeah, Bastard. No,
No?
Goblin. That's the second one. No, Odd Future was still going around then.
For sure. No, I never really like got into them, but I am a fan of almost all of those artists outside of Odd Future. So
Yeah, they were into like a lot of DIY mixtapes kind of before they blew up, and then after they blew up, they put out maybe I think two Odd Future tapes, and then what big projects any of them put out kind of became a thing. But it was really a certain run there. I think like 2010 when it all started happening. I liked a few of their tracks. I saw their set at Coachella 2011 in the Sahara tent right after Skrillex finished. Um,
what a sentence.
I remember very little about that one for multiple reasons. I do remember the energy being crazy though. But yeah, man, really cool to see. I'll have to send you that picture. It was really
Yes.
rad. Next bit of music news I have is that Ariana Grande will be releasing a 10-year anniversary edition of her debut album, Yours Truly, this Friday, with the addition of some new live bonus tracks, I believe. I'm a big fan of that, like almost doo-wop style that she has going on that album. Are you familiar with her first album at all?
I could not tell you one song.
Got it. Okay. Well, we might have to check that one out for the anniversary.
All right.
It's a very good one. Has a collab with Mac Miller on it. There's one with Big Sean, but I think like the first four or five song run that is just her, no features, is some really good, like very Mariah Carey-esque stuff. You might dig it.
I mean, I'm sure I will. She's wildly popular for a reason. I do my best to not hate on popular artists until I hear their music to hate it. But I've heard Ariana Grande songs, but I
Of
couldn't
course.
name one.
Well, I feel like a lot
Rings.
of her
Rings?
yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Seven Rings.
There it
A
is.
lot of her newer stuff kind of has this like trappy R&B aesthetic. When she started like 10 years ago now, it was much more straightforward pop and it worked well for her. I think she's evolved well too, but I'm kind of hoping they release a vinyl for this one. It's an album I would like to own.
Well, I can almost guarantee you that they will. So
Yeah. Yeah, money is to be made,
yeah,
right?
that is correct, man.
You got any music news this week?
No, I don't.
All right, then. Well, then let's dive into the playlist, starting with a new one from Peekaboo, Skrillex, Flodan, and G-Rex. It's called Batters. Obviously not as good as Rumble. Still a good track. Doesn't really come together for me until about like a minute 45 in. But once it does, man, I really dug this one. What about you?
That's funny for a 2 minute and 47 second track. I think it's a banger, man. I don't know anybody on this track except for Skrillex and Flodan, but they seem to be a match that seems to do well if we take
Yep.
historics into account here. Maybe I should look into G Rex and Peekaboo. I did enjoy this track.
It was a fun way to start the playlist off every time.
Yeah. It was every time you reset the playlist, it was like, oh, this song again.
Yep. I got a new one from Bijou and Drezzo called Goons. I'm pretty sure Bijou and Drezzo have both been making the same deep house song over and over for years now, but it's always a jam and I always dig it. What about you?
Right? Like he's clearly got his signature style, and this is
Yes.
it's really neat. So
Hmm.
I remember back when you and I were trading DJ sets on your tractor, I would always throw a Drezzo track in there. That was a long time ago now.
I was going to bring up this track reminds me of like my last DJ phases when I was super into deep house like
Right,
this.
right. Weren't we all back then, though?
Yes. Oh my God. Where is Mala at right now? All right, let's move on. We got a new one from Boris Brejcha and Milana Narve called Vienna. It's always nice to get some new Boris on the playlist, but this is what I imagine it would sound like if Edward Maya made Show Me Love. I don't know if I love it, but I am very excited that he announced a new album coming early on next year. This is the lead single. What do you think about all that information?
That is a lot of information. I love the fact that we're going to get a Boris Brejcha album.
Same.
I love the fact that this song is neat. It is way shorter than I like from him. I'm not complaining though because it is good, but like you said, it's not my favorite of his. So
We should say it is the edit. There might be a longer cut on the album or coming soon.
yeah, I'd be surprised if there isn't something. And kind of like how Sasha did for his Luz Oscura album, which was middle of the pandemic, but
Mhm.
it's all mixed. And I'd love to see Boris do something like that.
That would be interesting.
Right.
No other details yet on that project, but I'm sure we'll get it in the weeks to come.
Yep.
All right, man. Did you have Daniel Avery remixing Interpol on your 2023 bingo card? Because I sure did not.
Holy shit, John! This is my song of the week. I saw I
Yes.
saw a new interpolation from this album, which I was a big fan of when they dropped it last year, and
Hmm.
Daniel Avery attached to it, and I was like,
Yep.
I don't think I've ever clicked add to a playlist so quickly. The way this progresses and moves is something special, man. I am a giant fan of this song.
Yeah, you're a giant fan of it because it's fucking awesome, man.
Right.
It's surprisingly heavier than I expected it getting. I really enjoyed it too. Rightfully your song of the week, sir.
And the way I mean, if you showed somebody the first 10 seconds and like in like the last 10 seconds and told them there was the same song, they'd be like, no, you're an idiot. That's why I love
Oh,
it.
shout out Daniel Avery. All right, man. Got a new one from Tim Englehart and Jordan Arts called In Circles. You a fan of this one?
There's some chill melodic techno for our week. Figured I would throw it on. I am
Yeah.
a fan of Englehart's production, as we've talked about a number of times on the playlist and
Hmm.
or on the podcast rather. And yeah, man, I threw it on.
Yeah, this one it's kind of like Bob Moses meets Le Youth.
Yeah,
I really dug it. Thought it
yeah,
was good stuff.
good shit, man.
Moving on, we got a new one from Falden called Running. I was getting some like Tin Liquor vibes on this one. This Never Happened is just quickly becoming one of my favorite labels. Constantly high quality shit like this. You digging it?
Yeah, my notes are this. This is released on This Never Happened. In case you couldn't tell by the gloriousness that is the sound of this.
They just got it, man. Them in Afterlife right now have just nailed a sound, you know?
Right, and man, they're both doing. It's funny you bring up Afterlife because I think Tin Liquor's last record. No, was that on Anjuna? I think it was on Anjuna. But I mean, you look at Afterlife and you look at This Never Happened, and they're two wildly different sounds, but like they exist within the same space, and I think that like an Afterlife This Never Happened combo party would be fucking crazy. I think they really got it, and I think Lane 8 has a he's got an ear.
He certainly does. He certainly does. He could retire now and make a full living off running a label,
Right,
honestly.
exactly. He's really got it, man.
Please do not do that, Lane 8. All right, got a new one from DJ Shadow. Holy shit. This
What a
one's called
sentence.
Ozone Scraper, right? A little different too. It got a little weird, spooky 80s vibe to it. I really dug it. Perfect time of year for something like this. What were your thoughts on it?
I think this is the first we've heard from DJ Shadow since 2020, and I don't think there was much before that, except for that Run the Jewels stuff in like 2017, 2018.
If I
Um,
hear that song one more fucking time, I swear to God. You know, it'd be perfect for this movie trailer.
honestly, good for all of them, man. They all deserve it. When I saw Run the Jewels at Coachella, they brought out DJ Shadow, and the excitement was just beaming out of my face.
Oh, I'm sure.
Very interesting synthy dance track, man. Not something you expect from Shadow, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, you could really sort Shadow's music under almost any genre. This one fit dance pretty straightforward.
I saw somebody on the internet talking shit about introducing, and I I almost engaged, but I was like, he's got to be a troll.
Yeah, don't take that. That's
I
bait,
was,
buddy.
I was like, that's got to be bait, man.
Yeah, it's for sure bait. You've seen Mad Max. It's bait.
Right.
All right, we got a new drum complex track, Tour de France. It is neither good nor bad. It is just drum complex. Gotta love it, man. What'd you think of this one?
I have to correct you. The song name is Tour de Trance, and
Oh,
it's
Tour de France.
and
My bad.
it's really the only reason I added it on here. The track's fine, but they really should have like a Tour de Trance in Belgium or something. Like just set speakers along some country road in Belgium and just have Above and Beyond and Armin just
Dude, I'm there.
host, right? Like that is
Sold.
fuck Tomorrowland, man. I'm going to Tour de Trance.
Sold, man. I am there. Forget the Portland naked bike ride. We're all doing Tour de Trance this year. All right, man. We got a new one from K-Flay off of her upcoming album. This track is called Irish Goodbye. It features Vic Fuentes of Pierce the Veil. I got excited when I saw they were working together, but this one just did not do it for me like I was hoping it would. I'm not even
Really?
sure why. Yeah. Yeah, I think the verses are fine. I think it even sounds as expected for their two styles, but I just want a little more from it. I don't know. I
That
think it was fine, but I was kind of expecting maybe a great one with both of the artists. Maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm overestimating.
No,
But how'd you feel about it?
I'm sure. I mean, obviously, your opinion is valid, man. I thought that this was pretty tight, but I understand what you mean because the first half of the song is very pop, and then all of the sudden we get Vic's signature yell scream along with like a crazy riff. I think if they had incorporated more of that riff throughout the entirety of the track, or not incorporated it at all, I think it still would have worked. And I think it might have been more one-sided rather than have it be a K-Flay track in the first half and then a Pierce the Veil track in the second.
Yeah, I think you're dead on there. It's a God, what's the term? It not needed more time in the oven. It needed a rearrangement, possibly. I feel like there's a good song in here. Like I said, their verses are good, the lyrics are good, it all flows together well. It's missing something for me.
I was surprised. I did think that K-Flay and Vic both sounded great together. So I'd be
Yeah.
interested in a future collaboration from them.
Yeah, I think maybe her on one of their songs would be interesting, you know?
Right. K-Flay, if you're listening. I'm just kidding.
All right, let's move on. We got a new one from Snow Allegra called Wait a Little Longer. Another beautiful single, soulful, poetic, and again, shares so many similarities to old Michael Jackson ballads. She's just in a class all by herself at this point. I'm hoping we get a new album coming soon, but if not, we got 3 new singles this year. I won't complain. Did you enjoy this one?
You know, I love the jazz that she's doing here. And I've said on the podcast a ton of times, slower R&B doesn't really do it for me. I'm not like a huge ballad guy, but the instrumentals here really compensate for the slower tempo for me on this one. And I
Yeah.
would love to hear an album like this because, like you said, this is kind of, I guess, thematically similar to the last single that she dropped, and it was pretty recent. So I'd be surprised if we don't have an album or an EP coming along, but you never know.
The production compensating for the tempo, I think, is dead on with her music lately. It's all been a little bit slower than I would prefer, but just the way she goes about it knocks it out of the park every time.
Man, this is real jazz, and you know I like my jazz. So
I do, sir. Yes, I feel like she could walk into a legit jazz club and start doing vocals, and nobody would blink an eye. She is built for that.
speaking of jazz, I almost added the 7-hour long Bill Evans jazz album that he just put out, but I decided, you know what, that might be a little too long. We've got other things we
Pussy.
need to.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
know
probably
you're
a little
kidding.
long. Oh, please, thank you. All right. We got a new one from Usher called Boyfriend. Do you know the story behind this one with the
I
whole Kiki Palmer thing?
I don't, but you could have told me this was Sean Kingston, and I would have been like, yeah,
Okay, so the story behind this one is a little messy, man. I'm surprised I'm honestly surprised that Usher and Kiki Palmer are leaning into it at all. So what happened was he was doing his residency in Vegas. This was, I feel like, it feels like years ago at this point, but it was like month or two ago. And she was wearing a kind of like see-through dress, and he is serenading her as, playing the part, not overtly like touching her or anything, just singing
right,
to her. And she is very much flirting with him. There's video of this moment. She recently just had her first kid. The father of that child was not happy about the video going around online and was like, she shouldn't be dressing like that. She's a mom now. And she was like, excuse me, I will
right,
dress however the fuck I want. Like, I'm going to go out and have a good time with my friends. I'm not cheating on you, blah, blah, blah. And so now she's appearing in the video for a song about your boyfriend being jealous
Jesus
and coming to look
Christ.
for Usher, and it's Usher singing the song. Yeah, it's messy. I hope that their child is doing well. In terms of the track itself, man, it's fine. It's not as good as Good was. It's not as impressive vocally as Glue. Like you said, this could be a fucking Sean Kingston song. But again, like Snow Allegra, we've gotten 3 new Usher singles this year. I'm not complaining at all.
So I do
What'd you think of it?
I do have to say that I mean I thought it was fine, but I wrote this Sean Kingston note. I want to say like 4 or 5 days ago, right? And
Sure.
as I was checking out of the grocery store earlier today, I heard Sean Kingston on the on the in-house grocery store radio, and I was like, hey, I smirked a little bit. I was like, this could be Usher,
I always
but he's
smirk
playing.
because his song "Take You There" was on a lot of Jamba Juice CDs. I have heard some Sean Kingston in my day, my friend. Every time I hear "Take You There," I'm like, yeah, god damn it. All right, moving on. We got a new one from Tinashe called Needs. This one is fucking phenomenal, man. It sounds like she wound the clock back 10 years on these last 2 singles. Both are incredible. I love it. What'd you think of this one?
This is a great track, man.
Yeah, she is fucking killing it. She announced the name of her new album, and I think that it's coming sometime in September, but has not put out an actual date yet.
Neat.
Definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, excited for that one.
All right, time to make our booty drop. It's this new one by Dochi. I found the Jersey Club booty drop sample a little bit grating, but her flow won me over by the end of the track every time. What about you?
This is just so much fun, John.
It is.
It's
It
just a
is.
fun time.
And if I'm not mistaken, let me see. Number one on Good Music Friday or New Music Friday. Good for her. That's like a big, big slot.
Hey, that's awesome. Good for
That
her.
does not usually go to an artist that's not like top 50 in the world.
That's tight.
Um, all right, got a new one from No Guidance called If You Only Knew. I love how much music these guys are putting out this year, man. I love that the songs are getting longer too. We're hearing growth from them in real time, which is cool. Any thoughts on this one?
Interesting lyrical content, but I really do dig these guys' style.
Yeah, man. We haven't had a four-piece R&B group that sings like this or works like this in a long, long time. Probably since like Boys to Men was on Full House and shit like that. We're going back to those times. Um, got a new one from Samaria called Tightrope. We reviewed an EP of hers last year that I thought was really good, and this song's a little bit different than that. It's a little less trappy, but her voice is fucking beautiful. I've been bumping this one all week long. What about you?
Absolutely incredible vocal performance on this one, man.
Killer, killer. Love it. Can't wait to hear more from her.
Most definitely.
Moving into the rock realm of things, starting off with Avec Plaisir. This is called Junji Burrito. I really like this one, man. It's got a little bit of that Midwest in its sound. Really solid track. What'd you think of it?
So, funny story time. I don't think I've told you this. I actually ordered a Swiss Army Wife CD, and I don't know what happened, but I ended up getting an Avec Plaisir album. It's not even on Spotify, the album that I received in the mail. So, this track is really good. It's from Really Rad. What do we expect?
That's fucking awesome. Do not leak it, Brandon. Do not leak
I'm
it.
sure it's like a compilation of songs or whatever, but I don't even know the names of the songs. It's still in my car CD player. So I put it there.
We got a really rad release to talk about next week that I am very excited about.
Yes.
All right, we got a new one from Tesseract called The Gray. How'd you feel about this one?
Man, I think this style of instrumentation is pretty tight. I love how the song builds and builds into that crescendo in the middle. The bass work on this one is pretty tight too. There's something missing from Tesseract's music, and I can't put my finger on it for me though.
Yeah, I liked this one a little more than the last single they put out, but I'm just struggling to get into them, man. Thought it was
Yeah,
slightly better though.
yeah. It feels like I should like them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
Um, Something that nobody needs to tell us to like. This new Harm's Way track, Devour. This fucking rules. I threw their new album on a release calendar. It's called Common Suffering. Drops September 29th. Did this not get you fucking stoked for it?
Oh my god, man! Remember when metalcore used to sound like this? I
Yeah,
love this
I
one,
miss
man.
it. I miss
Chugging
it.
breakdown, hardcore influence is apparent. It's heavy as fuck. The
Yup.
album cover is out of this world. I am a giant fan of this one. Thank you, Harm's Way.
Thank you. Got a new one from Born of Osiris called Torchbearer. I thought this one was excellent. They sound just as good as they ever have. Some great riffs on this one too. Do you think we're going towards a new album?
It's funny, man. Their album in 2021, I forget the name of it, just fucking blew me away, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. This track
Mhm.
is really cool. It's heavy. There's a little bit of like scaly melody, and the vocals are fucking great. The synths are awesome. It's a little dark. I hope we're getting a new album. Maybe we are.
Angel or Alien is the name of that 2021 album you're talking
Yeah,
about.
it's a good one.
Moving on, we got a new one, kind of, from Bleeding Through. This is the 2023 version of Love Lost in a Hail of Gunfire. As far as re-recordings go, I thought this one was really well done. What about you?
So you may know this about me, but I am a very large fan of Bleeding Through. This track is my favorite on their sophomore album, This Is Love, This Is Murderous, and I was super stoked to hear they re-recorded it. Obviously, I think I like the original better because I've listened to it like 1,000 times. It burned a hole in my Discman from walking from the bus every day. And look, man, it's really cool modernization of the track. Their drummer just absolutely destroys this one. They somehow made this track heavier and prettier.
Mm, yeah. That's a tough line to walk to, isn't
Yeah,
it?
how do you do that, man?
Rearrangement, my friend.
Yeah,
No, it,
works good.
yeah. Bleeding Through's version of Love Lost in a Hail of Gunfire is a success.
Yes, yes.
Should they do the Taylor Swift? Just re-record the whole catalog.
This is love. This is murderous. Bleeding Through's version. I'm about it, man.
Oh, I kind of like it. I
I'm
kind of like
about
it.
it.
Um, all right, we got a new one from Wolves in the Throne Room called Twin Mouthed Spring. This shit is so campy, hard not to like. Once I learned that they're from Washington, it made perfect sense. Keeping the Pacific Northwest weird. Love to see it. What do you think of this one?
So, Wolves in the Throne Room have just made their way around the U.S. on a tour, and my really good friend went to see
Hey,
them. Shout out to Christian. He recommended I check them out, and I did. Here we have a new track. It's pretty. It's atmospheric. It's black metal. What else is there to say?
nothing. You nailed it. Pretty atmospheric black metal. Hits the nail on the head there.
Yep.
All right, wrapping up the singles this week with one from Cinderblock, California called Attitude Error. I know it's just the name of the song, but they really did encapsulate the spirit of the old WWF Attitude Era on this one. Vince McMahon would love it. The
I'm sure.
album artwork on this one, A plus 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 plus. I'm a big fan of this one, man. What about you?
Oh, I'm so glad you are. It's funny. I found this band via a poster, a punk rock tour poster or something like that, and come to find out it's the wrong Cinderblock. There are two Cinderblocks. This is Cinderblock CA, but I threw this one on because it's a new release from them, and oh my god, man, I really liked it. So it turns out I'm a fan of two bands called Cinderblock now.
I think we need at least 50 cinder blocks. We need one cinder block band in
From
every
every
state.
state, right?
Yeah, yeah, minimum, minimum. It's a name that can be used by more than one band for sure.
Yes, most definitely.
All right, we don't have any EPs this week, so we will move straight into the albums, and we have a few really good ones to talk about here. Starting off with a new one from Mick Jenkins called The Patience. This one is immaculate, methodical, and exquisitely crafted. This album not only lived up to the hype for me, but it surpassed it, delivering what is no doubt his best album to date and in the conversation for Rap Album of the Year. There's no fat on this album. It's just bars. And while we reviewed a few albums like that over time, bars usually seem to come at the expense of production for some reason. That last Black Thought album being a great example.
Yep.
Mick not only raps his ass off on this one, but he's doing it over what has become the signature blend of jazz infused boom bap, the twinkling keys on Guapanese, those like villainous strings on Pasta. It gives him this perfect canvas to paint on for his style. And not only him, Freddie Gibbs, Benny the Butcher, JID, Vic Mensa, they all show up and do their thing. He did a great job of picking people who would accentuate each song instead of being a spectacle or distraction on those songs. And I love how fearless he is with those feature selections, too. A lot of artists are afraid of getting out-rapped on their own tracks.
Right.
Mick fears none of that. You could argue Freddie and JID are better rappers than him if you prefer them. Neither of them were able to out-rap him on his own track. I don't think there's an artist alive who could at this moment in time. He's just in a zone. But what's great is that it's not about that. These are just talented dudes creating high quality art for us to enjoy. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. I don't really know what else to say, man. This is a masterpiece. I'm giving it a 9 for now, with a good chance of it turning into a 10 soon. I can't find a thing to criticize about it. My standout is Smoke Break Dance, but take your pick, man. How'd you feel about it?
You know, it's funny, man. We talked about when Freddie was putting out that slew of singles, I think late 2021 or early 2022. We were like, why would anybody have Freddie on their track at this point? Yep. But, you know, it turns out we get to eat our words. Look, man, with how much I enjoyed Elephant in the Room and how much I enjoyed the singles for this record, I was sure I was going to like it. I really didn't think I I really didn't know I was gonna like it this much. He sounds so hungry. He is just here to separate himself from whatever pack that seems to be unraveling in rap right now, and he's doing it so well. He wraps circles around these beats, and he ends up connecting everything together by the end of his 16 bars. It's honestly top level, like you said. Michelin Star sets this up a bit as he talks about going from a line chef to a sous chef. Show and tell with Freddie is fucking hard, man. A couple of things I love about this track is like that beat progression. It's not a beat switch. It's a progression. And Freddie's unbelievable line of "Got to bring it back, baby. I'd be forgetting some of y'all as crack babies." Incredible stuff, man. Just incredible stuff. The beat on Sitting Ducks is absolutely amazing. Benny's verse is interesting to say the least. It's inspired a little bit of controversy. He's him at least. And when we do get to the end of a massive 3-track run with Smoke Break Dance, which we covered as a single, you kind of get an idea of what this album is. This album is everything Mick Jenkins is good at. He lets these features kind of do their thing early, and then it's all him until Farm to Table with Vic. But I think Mick doesn't need features to shine. That sultry saxophone on 007, along with great lyrics and his signature way of kind of, I don't know how to describe it, except for he wraps his way around the beat until it comes back together. Like it's off pentameter or tempo or whatever. I'm not a music expert, but the way he does it is really miraculous, man. On 2004, he sounds hungry again. Color Theory has some of the best wordplay since a Carter project. This dude he wraps circles around himself, man. Pasta is another wordplay heavy track, and really it honestly shows Mick at his best. Vic's verse on Farm to Table is great. Guapanese fits perfectly into the album, and I think it was a great single for this, seeing as how like how perfectly it fits into it. I think Mop
Agree.
is a perfect closer, and that spoken word entry at the end really showcases everything that I felt while listening to this. He's finding
Hmm.
himself constantly, and he's doing what he wants to do, and it's really working for him. I also have this at a 9. My standout is Show and Tell or Mop. Either one of those, I really can't decide. Like you said, just throw a dart at this album, and there's a standout.
Yep. Yeah, you nailed it with the hungry comment, man. That's it. And he's almost been I think his first album Water was like 2014 and he got critical acclaim with that. So to still
Yeah.
be this hungry sounding 9 years later and only have gotten to what is arguably your best point now is insane, man. It sounds like he's just hitting his prime.
Yeah, this blew me away. It blew me away.
Yeah, fucking great shit, man. Glad you loved it too. Moving on, we got a new one from Movements called Ruckus. So, albums like this are why they are one of my favorite bands. Their songwriting and their ability to create consistently great music is much harder to find today in rock music than it used to be. I've been a pretty big fan of theirs for about 5 years. And in that time, they've never really let me down with a release. Like, I like some songs more than others, of course, but as a group, they've never made a song that I'd consider bad. Even when they do something that isn't exactly my preference, they do it in a way that I'm able to absorb. For instance, on this album, I don't love tracks like Heaven Sent and Tightrope, like the same way I love tracks like Lead Pipe and Fail You. But I've never even considered skipping them when I'm going through the album. I feel like attention spans in this day and age are very hard to keep, and they were able to keep me engaged from beginning to end every single listen with a lot of help by outstanding album cuts, man. You're one of us now starts the album off on a really fun note with this kind of odd disembodied intro going into it. I hope you choke at just a fantastic middle album song. It's a little early to say that this is their best album to date. I think that it's in the conversation. I definitely enjoyed it a little more than No More Good Left to Give. So at worst, it's like their second best album, but that's all subjective. What isn't subjective is how much work they clearly put into this album, and it comes through in the final product that we got. I'm going to give it an 8, maybe an 8.5. My standout is Lead Pipe or Fail You, but I love the whole thing. What about you?
Well, I'm so glad you loved it as much as you thought you were going to. First of all, John, thank you for introducing me to this band.
Of course.
This is an interesting album. I went back and actually listened to Movement's entire discography so I could have a good historical standpoint for
Thank
this one.
you. Thank you.
This is it sounds a little bit more poppy than their last few records. Hear me out. I don't actually think it's the music itself. I think it's the mixing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing even. There are moments like on Heaven Sent where I was thinking like, wow, is this Harry Styles? And then a riff would come in and movements would prove me wrong. Tracks like Fail You, Lead Pipe, and Dance with Death, though, have these great riffs, catchy choruses, screamy breakdowns. Those really fucking do it for me, man.
Same.
I really liked most of this album. However, I already knew that I would. As is tradition with most music nowadays, we heard half the album as singles. This wouldn't be a
Yeah.
bad thing if we had
Didn't love
more
that.
than 36 minutes of music in total, you know?
Hmm.
It's a short listen, but there should have really only been 3 singles, if you ask me. Nobody asked me,
Agreed.
but I said it. Other than that, and like the obvious pop rock influence on the mixing on this record, I really enjoyed it, man. I'm going to give it a 7. My standout is Fail You. I think that's the best song on this album.
Great song, man. Love it. Yeah, I agree with you on the singles. I think they could have done Killing Time, Lead Pipe, Fail You, wrapped it up there. I'm sold.
Right,
You
exactly.
don't need anything else. Yeah, I think that is interesting. The writing isn't getting poppier, but the mixing is. And I feel like that does tend to be a thing with bands like this as they progress and they work with different producers and different mixers. They go for a more broad sound, which I do think Movements, while still niche and still seen, does have the potential for a more broad appeal.
Well, and you know, it's one of those things, man. You go from playing hardcore shows as Turnstile to opening up for Blink 182 as Turnstile and working with Bad Bad Not Good. You know, like it is stuff like this that gets you more out there. And it's if it's gonna give them more attention because they clearly deserve it, then fuck yeah, good for them, man. Again, I don't think it's a bad thing. I really just think Heaven Sent could have been a Harry Styles song. Go
Oh
back, go
man.
back and listen to it, and you'll be sad I
Oh, I've
said
heard
it. But
Heaven Sent many
okay,
times this
okay.
week, my friend. I do know what you're talking about. I totally get it. I totally get it. We'll leave it there for now on the Movements album and move on to this Orbit Culture album, Descent. How you feeling about it?
Holy fucking groove metal, Batman. What we have here on our hands is a worthy Gojira opponent and something that Lars Ulrich should listen to as a drummer because holy shit. And I say that because at some points on this album, Nicholas kind of sounds like Hetfield, and you can almost hear what Metallica would sound like on tracks like Through Time if Lars used his double bass. Let's get into it, man. The intro, Descending, really sets the tone for the album with the way it builds with marching drums and orchestral bass that eventually crescendos into the massive opening track, Black Mountain. Oh my god, bro. When I sat down to listen to this thing, I was blown away by this track. It rips a hole through you and anyone behind you. It absolutely just killed me. Groovy riffs paired with astounding drums, paired with their
Great song.
signature kind of growly slash Metallica vocal variations. They just do it, bro. Sorrower absolutely destroys the identity of a breakdown, bro. There's even like a build up to this breakdown. They use double bass drum grooves so well, it's almost criminal. To cap off this incredible 3-track one, we get From the Inside, which has been stuck in my head for fucking months. Alienated is a banger, and again, they use these grooves so well, man. Owls of Fire is a bop. It's got a catchy chorus. It's a lyrically strong track as well. The closer, look, man, I knew I was going to like this album from the singles. I really didn't expect to like it as much as I actually did. I really thought it was going to be like a, like a 6 or a 7, depending. Maybe the singles are the strongest. No, bro, I think this is an 8. I'm giving this one an 8. My standout is Black Mountain, and I really like how they kind of closed with a softer track for the whole album to just blister you, and then to close on something a little lighter is an interesting choice. But I think it worked for this specific record. What did you think about Orbit Culture's Descent?
Ooh, Brandon, I hate disagreeing with you on
Disagree with me,
things.
man. Do it.
I thought it was okay, but it's a little formulaic. Like it's as heavy as it can be for the style that they're going for. But for me, it's a little boring. Like every layer of the music here is high quality, but the end result is kind of murky. Part of that's the mix, part of that's the songwriting. But whatever the case, it's an album with a lot of technical proficiency, but not really a lot of creativity on it as far as I'm concerned.
That's super
If you
fair.
aren't buying what they're trying to sell you on this album, which I guess I'm not, then it just doesn't work. So I'm giving it a 5, but my standout is, of course, the undeniable Black Mountain, which is just a ripper of a song. I'll give you that. Again, it's a 5. I did not hate this album by any means. It's not a bad album. This is just in the kind of not for me camp.
No, dude, that's super fair, man. I'm glad you disagree with me. Maybe I'll listen to it and agree with you later, but I probably won't because I really liked it.
What score did you end up giving it? I didn't hear.
An 8.
An 8. Okay,
Yep.
we're not too far.
No.
All right, let's move on to this new one from Fiddlehead called Death Is Nothing to Us. You enjoying this one this week?
Yeah, man. It's really fun, man. It's released on Run for Cover
Agree.
Records. It's high energy, sing alongable tracks, man. This band reminds me of like so many different bands, and they still do retain their own identity though. There's like quicksand style tracks like Loser Man and The Woes. There's failure style tracks like Fiddleheads and Queen of Limerick. It engaged me throughout the 27 minutes of the runtime. Short listen. I didn't skip any of them. I'm gonna give it a
It is a very
6.
short listen.
I'm gonna give it somewhere. It's somewhere between a 6 and a 7. Let's call it a 6.5 or whatever. But
Sure.
Going to Die or 15 to Infinity are my favorites on this one. What'd you think?
We're dead on. This one's very fun. I didn't really know what to expect with it, but it's a decent album, man. It's got a lot of that DIY spirit you and I love so much with up and coming post-hardcore bands like this, and their songwriting is on par with a lot of their peers that we've covered. They've got kind of you kind of said what failure.
Yep.
I hear that. I think they got kind of a basement thing going on with their sound.
Okay.
And I think the scene could always use some more bands that sound like Basement and Failure. I had a good time with this one, man. I'm also giving it a 6. My standout is Sleepyhead.
Nice. That's a good song.
Moving on, we got a new album from Bearings called The Best Part of Being Human. Look, man, I thought this one was really, really good, but it's kind of as expected, a little bit like the Movements one. It's more of like the super catchy pop punk we've come to know them for. Nothing more, nothing really less. Singles like Scenery and Gone, what is it? Gone
Go.
Too Far,
Gone
Gone
too
So
far.
Gone. That is what I'm trying to
Yep.
think of. And songs like Gone So Gone are obvious standouts among the singles that we covered, but we got some great album cuts on here as well, man. My personal favorite, Ocean Dream, of course, with those fucking incredible brass flourishes. I'm sure you knew I was loving
Oh
those.
yeah.
Or tracks like Don't Want to Forget About It with its like earworm melodies. The only limits to my enjoyment of this album really come down to my personal enjoyment of this style of pop heavy pop punk. I'm a fan of their approach to it, but it's still kind of best in moderation for me. I'm giving this album a 7 for now. My standout is Scenery or Ocean Dream. But I really enjoyed this one, man. What about you?
You know, it's funny, man. Sometimes when we disagree, I almost feel like we're going to be off for the whole week. But no, we're right on. We're right on the same wavelength here. Look, man, there's a lot of pop in my punk here, and I'm all about it. This album is great. It's energetic. It's anthemic, and above all else, it really is catchy, man. The Bearings really
They
do
nailed
take
that.
it to the
Yeah.
next level of pop catchiness. We
Yeah,
talked
they
about the
do.
singles during the rollout, and they're just as good on the album. But the album cuts make this thing. Tracks like "Go Long" and "Ocean Dream," they have these like purity to them. It reminds me of the early 2000s heyday, and you really got to love that brass those brass
Dude,
flourishes on
so
"Ocean
good.
Dream." Man, holy shit! You knew I was loving those too. uh,
Yes.
Howie, You're a Freak is a very yellow card of them. And, you know, man, it's a
Yeah.
28-minute song or 28-minute album. It was super easy to fall in and listen to the whole thing. It's fun. It's energetic. It's nostalgic. And it's not rewriting any pop punk books or anything. And I doubt it'll be mentioned in the great pop punk revival of the 2020s, but it is a really good listen. I'm also going to give it a 7. My standout is obviously Ocean Dream. It's the best song on this album.
Yes, man. Fucking great song.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we got a new one from RAYE called My 21st Century Blues. I just started listening to this album a few weeks ago, but it actually came out back in February. We covered a few tracks that she was on recently, like The Weekend with Stormzy and Waterfall with Disclosure last year, both of which were excellent. So I was curious how a full-length album of hers would sound, and the results were great. This one is one of the better pop albums, if you want to call it that we've heard this year. It's creative, it's new, but it's also got it's rooted in like classic themes and structures in a way that's very relatable and instantly recognizable, I'd say. It's reminiscent of old Rihanna albums with its stylistic diversity, or maybe like a newer Doja Cat album with less controversy. It seems like Escapism with 070 Shake is already a giant hit with almost 600 million plays when I did my notes. And good for her, man. She deserves all the success. I'm glad we got around to covering this one because I really liked it. I'm giving it a 7.5. My standout is, I'm sure you can guess it. It's Five-Star Hotels with Mahalia. That song fucking rules. How did you feel about this one, though, man? I've been curious.
So this one kind of surprised me, man. Like you said, we covered a couple of
Good.
tracks that she was on, but to hear her really do this kind of art it really took me by surprise. This is one of those experiences where I go in blind without expectations, and like we've said 1,000 times, it really does add to an experience like this.
Yeah.
Variety is the name of the game for RAYE, and she absolutely delivers on that. We get rapping, singing, house music, some disco, some funk and soul, a little bit of R&B on this.
Yep.
If you told somebody this, it would sound chaotic, but she really does blend everything together really well. This album is immaculately produced, and every new track I found myself impressed with, like every corner of the production, the mixing, the
Yeah.
drum samples, the scales used in the dancier tracks, all kind of come together to form this great genre blend of a record, and she performs it like a fucking master. My favorite moment on this record, though, is like the first four tracks, man, which is the intro, great stage setter,
Mm-hmm.
and then the three track run through Black Mascara. It came out as a single apparently in 2022. I don't think we covered it. It took me by surprise because that track is not set up as a house track,
No, not at
and
all.
then it just hits you, man. And I got curious. The producers and co-writers for this track is a group called Punctual. Figured I'd shout them out. They've got releases
Interesting.
on Monster Cat rather, and Defected. And I know a handful of their tracks, but I never followed them. This whole thing though, this whole album, man, it took me by surprise and kind of reminded me of how art can still be done in a pop music arena without A, taking yourself too seriously, and B, also taking yourself seriously enough. You can tell she had fun with this and she's
Yeah.
still stuck to making music in a serious way. And I love that you can tell, you know?
Same.
I'm going to give it an 8, man. I really enjoyed this
Hell
one.
yeah.
My standout is Black Mascara. That song just fucking threw me for a loop.
I should have known the dance track was gonna get you. Dude, fuck yeah. I'm glad you really enjoyed this one. I thought it ruled too.
Yeah, thank you for throwing it on because
Of course,
it would
man.
not have been on my radar without you. So,
Of course. Another album that I think came out about a month ago that we missed is this
yep.
one you threw on here from Restraining Order called Locked in Time.
I
Talk to me about
sure
this one.
did. Alrighty, man. So we've never covered this band. I told you a few months ago, though, maybe even like 6 months ago now, that I was coming out of my underground techno discovery phase and I was now reaching into the depths of newer punk releases. This is one of the
Sure.
fruits of my dive into this rabbit hole. Moderately popular street punk, it just fucking pummels you from the opener Addicted all the way through the blistering 21-minute run of this album through the closer Painted World. This is punk rock done right, man. For a sophomore album, this is only their second album. The band started, quote unquote, in 2017. I think they had been a member of a number. All the band members have been a member of a number of different hardcore bands out there. But look, man, I'm sure we'll be hearing more of from Restraining Order, and it is punk rock fun, man. The album artwork is fucking sick. I really enjoyed this one, man. 7 out of 10. My standout though is Should Have Known because holy shit, that bass line.
Great bass line on that one. Actually feeds into my standout. It's really hard to cap a week off any better than just with a 20-minute punk album like this. It's so
Right?
fun. Its energy is infectious. Blistering drum beats, speedy riffs, aggressive vocals. They just make this album what it is, man. I don't listen to a lot of hardcore punk. We don't really review a lot of it, but best believe next time I'm in the mood for some, this is the album that will be near the top of my list. I'm giving this one a 6. My standout is Misled, which I thought was just an incredible track.
Great song. Great song.
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed this one. Thanks for throwing it on.
I'm glad you did.
That does it for us this week. Join us next week when we will be breaking down new releases from Victoria Monet, Kill the Noise, Spanish Love Songs, The Word Alive, Broken Record, possibly Drake, and much, much more. If you liked the show, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram and Reddit. Just search Brandon Space Pod. Make sure you follow the playlist that the podcast is based on. You can find the link to that in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Peace.